guys, and welcome back to Jenny G Dyslexic Me. Today we're going to talk about tips for reading large chunks of text and tips for like reading off graphs, because graphs are annoying, like really annoying. If you have dyslexia, I'm sure you know that graph paper is literally your worst enemy, especially in exams when you're stressed, and especially when they do black lines instead of blue lines. I don't know if that's just me, but something that I've really noticed is when graph paper has blue lines, it's a lot easier to read than when it has bold black lines. So I'm going to go through a couple of tips that I use to help read larger chunks of text and graph paper as well. So I hope you enjoy. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and please subscribe down below. Okay, so I've just really quickly drawn a graph just so we have an example. So if you can see this, then there's just a simple scale up and down the sides with a curve going through the graph. And it's on blue graph paper because I didn't have any black graph paper, and also I find blue a lot easier to read off. So if you were given like a question in class or a question in the exam where you had to either draw a graph or you had to kind of read off a graph from a certain scale, so say you wanted to read off from, I don't know, 30 and it told you to read like this, then my first biggest tip would be fold over the paper, because if you have all of this paper, it's so much easier to get confused between all the lines. So I would personally fold it over like this, and then you have the area that you still need to read off, but you don't have all these extra lines kind of messing with your vision. And if you could even fold it down this way, so you're focusing on a lot smaller of a section, and it's a lot less overwhelming for your brain to kind of take in. So something else that I would do in exams, or if I was given a question in class and there was a graph below the question, so you have like a bit of text and then you have the graph below, I would immediately cover up that graph, because although I know I'm going to need it later on in the question, if I haven't read the top bit of text first, then I know I'm not going to be able to concentrate on the text because the graph will be below and it will be kind of like moving in my vision slightly. Even if I'm trying to read the text, my eyes will still be focusing on that graph as well. And it's very overwhelming and it gives you headaches. Well, it gives me headaches anyway. So something that I would do, I would instantly either fold that bit of paper over or cover up that graph, and just focus on the text that I have to read first before I even start the question. So that's something that I've always done, and it really, really helps me personally. It makes me focus on the bit of text, and it means that when it does come to the graph, I can then fold over the text and just focus on the graph. And it means there's a lot less kind of information to take in the page, and it just makes it easier in my opinion. So if you'd like to give that one a go, that is definitely a good tip. Okay, so a tip I have for reading large chunks of text is a tip that you've probably heard of before, and it's quite a simple one. So basically you get a ruler and you imagine this is like loads of text on it, and you get your text and you simply place the ruler underneath the line of the text that you're wanting to read, and then as you've read that line you just move it down another line, and it helps to kind of focus your eyes on the line you're reading. And for me it stopped kind of me muddling up the words between the two different lines, because occasionally the words would kind of jump between lines and I'd be reading a sentence and that doesn't make any sense, and it's because I'd actually switched to the line below. So if I had a ruler and I was kind of tracing it down the page as I was reading, it would kind of reduce the amount of jumping that I did between the lines. I wouldn't really recommend a see-through ruler because you can see through it, so you can see the text below, but I'd recommend like a solid colour ruler, or even like another bit of paper just to block it over as you're going down. And it means that you focus on each line individually and it's less overwhelming, and it also gives you a sense of achievement. Once you've finished reading that line and you're like, okay, I've read that line, I've managed to read that line, you can move it down and focus on one line at a time. It breaks it down for you and it makes it a lot easier and a lot less stressful if you're in an exam condition, to be able to know that you can get through a whole chunk of text. You just have to take it bit and bit at a time and you will be able to get through it. And yeah, so that is a tip for reading big chunks of text. I also just wanted to say that this is hard. Reading graphs and reading large chunks of text is really hard. It is really, really frustrating. It's one of the things that I probably did struggle most with in school, was reading off graphs and reading large chunks of text. So I wanted you to know that you are not alone in this. If you are struggling doing these kind of things, just know that other people are also in the same situation, and you will find a technique that works for you. You'll end up finding a technique that you think, okay, this helps a bit, and you'll be able to implement that into your learning, and it will help you. If you don't think that you've found that technique yet, then don't worry, you will find it, I promise. But just don't give up. Come back at it again and again and again. You cannot give up, because you will get through it, and you will end up finding a technique that works for you. If you like these techniques, and if you think that these techniques work, then that's great, and I really encourage you to try them. But don't worry if they don't. If they're not for you, don't worry, because there are lots of other techniques that you can use. If you have any other techniques, then please do let me know what they are, so I can share them with everyone, because I think we all need to stick together in this, and if one person has a technique that really works for them, then please share it with others, because it could really help them too. So yeah, don't give up, and keep trying your hardest to find new techniques that work for you. Okay, see you next time. Bye!